Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Welcome back to the show. We're so excited today. We've got Penny Zenker with us, and she's got some great information about productivity and a great organization that they're supporting. So, Penny, welcome to the show. Thank you for spending your time with us today.
Thank you, Teresa, for having me. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Let's get right into it. What is it, or tell us about the business that you do and the people that you help?
Well, I have a couple different things that I'm doing and helping. We were kind of talking about earlier. And the first and main thing that I'm doing is around productivity and helping people be more productive. And that sounds a little bit, okay, let's all do more. And that's actually not the point behind it. The point behind it is to recognize that productivity is like a feeling. It's like happiness or success, right? It's how we define it. And I believe that it's really when we feel like we're productive at the end of the day, when we're progressing towards something that's important to us. A lot of what I'm doing is helping people to reduce the stress and learn how to manage their energy as opposed to their time. And those people that I'm helping might be, I work a lot with entrepreneurs and business leaders. But that could be, also moms and solo entrepreneurs and everyone, because we all have those challenges with how hectic things are today.
So in what regards what kind of result do you help those individuals achieve when you're talking productivity?
Well, it really depends on the individual. I've helped many. I used to be a coach for Tony Robbins. Over the years, I've helped many business leaders to double their businesses by just being able to value their time in a different way than they had before and approach the way that they do things differently, but also help people break through some of just being stuck, right, with maybe some limiting beliefs that they had or that held them back in having a more fulfilling relationship or just having more self-confidence. So really in all different areas.
Yes, there's a big so overwhelmed these days, and so that's a great service to provide those individuals. So what led you to this field, and how did you get started in this business?
It's one of those things where you don't realize, all the different pieces of the puzzle and how they fit together until you kind of look back. I guess I've always just had an affinity for helping people, wanting to help people, and also the way that I look at things, I'm always looking at how to make things better. And so, I started my own business, technology business, because technology is a great tool in order to help to make things work more efficient and effective. I kind of got into larger businesses and helping them to manage and more effective strategic projects. And then really, I had kids and I decided I wanted to really coach. I love to help people grow their businesses. And so I got into coaching and worked with Tony Robbins and just really enjoy helping people to get out of their own way and realize their full potential.
Was there a certain point or a time where, you caught the bug, or can you tell us a short story about that?
I think also sometimes we teach what we need to learn ourselves. I think that the bug was also, how do I do this for myself, right? Feeling when I had my technology business, I was working 24-hour days, really stressed out about making payroll and all those different things. And I was just really overwhelmed, and I needed to find a different way of looking at things to make things work for me. Otherwise, right, I couldn't go on living like that. And so I think that's really what it was for me, was to learn a new way to approach things and look at things. And then people have, over the years, always said, you think differently, you look at things differently. And I think that was the impetus to get me to constantly take a step back and say, where am I? And be able to readjust. And that's kind of, yeah.
I love it when you say, I think you think differently. All entrepreneurs that I've spoken to have commented like that. Has there been a book or a movie along the way that inspired you as well?
Oh, wow. So many. Just pick out one. I mean, obviously, having worked with Tony Robbins for so many years, I'm a big Tony Robbins fan. But I have to say that John Assaraf and some of his books were a great inspiration to me. But I'd probably say the one that I'd want to mention was just after I came up with this idea that it's really about energy management. I came across a book that I thought was fantastic that was called The Power of Full Engagement by Jim Lohr and Tony Schwartz. And that was a really powerful and cementing book for me to say, yes, I'm on the right path here. And they did a lot of sports psychology and related it to our everyday life psychology. And it added a lot of science to the things that I was already teaching from a behavioral psychology perspective. So great book. Go out and get it.
Yeah, very interesting. I've not heard of that book, but I'm an avid reader myself, so I will immediately get that book. What drives you? What's your passion? And you mentioned earlier that you love to help people, but is there something deeper drives you to help the people that you help?
That's a good question. You really want to get deep here, don't you?
If you've been hanging around Tony Robbins, it should be easy for you.
Totally. Well, I don't, when I'm helping people to break through things that are holding them back, it just is such a buzz to see people discover their own freedom. There's just something beautiful about that just totally drives me. And I think it's being in those environments and having created so many breakthroughs. It's just it's like a drug. You can't, it's a good drug because if you can't stop that, that's okay, right? Know how to say what's deeper than that. Just knowing that I feel it from the core of my soul that it is what I'm to be doing. At least for now, right? I don't know what that's going to turn into, but I'm open to whatever possibilities that brings.
As soon as you said breakthrough, I started tingling, and it's like, wow, that's when people are connected and feel the same, energy. And when you have that breakthrough, it's exactly right. You're reborn again, basically. You're on a different channel, so that's powerful.
Right. It is powerful, and what's so cool is it doesn't take a lot. Like a breakthrough can just be seeing things from a new perspective, and that can happen in an instant. That's what excites me so much about it, is that it doesn't take years and years. I mean, maybe it does for some people, but the possibility is that it can happen in an instant.
That's a key word right there, instant. Things can go bad in an instant, and things can go good in an instant.
Absolutely.
And people don't realize that, and they just think it's this drawn out process. But if you sit down and think about it, it's like, look, things happen in an instant, and that's exactly how it plays out. So
right,
that's awesome.
And the beautiful thing is we have control over which way it goes. Because I recently was.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I recently just read something. I forget where I read this, but it said if you're not able to control, because a lot of people feel like they're out of control, they can't control it, their emotions or the situation. And it said that if you can't control what's in your environment, then you control the way that you react.
What are some of the obstacles preventing folks from, reaching that threshold or that breakthrough? What's some of the things that are holding them back from that outcome?
Well, one of the biggest things that I say is, and I have a little time waster series, and in the time waster series, it's our excuses. Is we really believe them, right? And we dig into them. And we spend a lot of time and energy creating them. And unfortunately, it's one of the biggest obstacles for us as to, why we don't take that extra step or just stretch outside of our comfort zone a little to be curious and to be open. It makes us closed off by already saying, okay, that's not possible, right? Or I can't do that, or that's fine for this person, but for me, right? The whole ants, can'ts, and buts, right? Automatic negative thoughts that come up and things like that. I think that's one of the biggest things, because if somebody's open, then a lot is possible.
Open. Explain open.
Well, if we're caught in our story, if we're not open, it's a good question. So I'm thinking of this as we talk. Awareness is one way to be open. It's being open to recognize where you might have some limiting behavior patterns or thought patterns, so that you can free yourself up from those and recognize that you are not necessarily your thoughts, right? So then that's why I say with our excuses or our stories, if we don't buy into our own stories, and we can ask ourselves really good quality questions to say, well, is that, Byron Katie talks about, is that true? Is that really true? Like, how do we open would be able to take a step back and be the fly on the wall and see things for what they really are, not worse than they are, not better than they are, but really what they are.
They just are. There's no wrong and there's no right. It just is. And
Right.
we're the ones that put or attach well, this is wrong, or this is a problem, and it goes back to how you react.
That's
how
right.
You react to the situation.
So we give it the judgments, the labels, right? And if we just could free ourselves from all those expectations and look at it from a perspective of intention and that fly on the wall, to be disassociated from it, take the emotion out, then we see it differently.
Can you describe briefly on how you've helped somebody make that transition?
One of the stories that I really like, and this is a business story, but this can be applicable in anything. It can be the way that you talk to your kids. It can be the way you talk to your spouse. In this particular situation, it was the way that a company was talking to the people who were calling in for feedback, their customer service. This woman was telling me, we were talking about customer loyalty. So I said, tell me about your customer service, how many calls you get. And she told me about these chronic complainers that call and that they meet and talk about the chronic complaints and the feedback. And as soon as she said chronic complainers, I said, hold on a second, because I'm really big into language and listening to what people say, because it's the language that we use that is reflecting what's going on in our unconscious thoughts. I said, chronic complainers. I said, so how do you think that your staff answers the phone when a chronic complainer is on the phone? Do you think they're happy to hear from that person? Or do you think they might have, more of an edge to their voice when they hear a chronic complainer, right? And she's starting to get it, the wheels are turning. She's going, oh, I feel like that's awful. I said, yeah. I said, these people are calling. They may call more often than others, but they're still your client, and they're calling, giving you feedback. This should be something that you embrace, because there's probably a half a dozen other people who aren't calling who just need your services, right? And she was perpetuating through that language that it was okay for her customer service team to refer to them like that, and it kind of creates the wrong focus that they want to have for the group. It's an unproductive, I shouldn't say wrong, there's no right or wrong, but it's an unproductive focus for what their objective is as part of customer service. You know what I mean? Excellent
example of that. The best piece of advice you could give to someone who's considering being more productive or getting out of that stuck, as you say, what would be your best piece of advice?
So my best piece of advice would be to really take a look at, there's 4 elements that I say are part of what I call energy management. So any 4 of these could help you to look at things in a different way. So the first one is purpose, and that would be really get clear on why you're doing something or why you want something. Simon Sinek talks about, lead with your why, because, then the what will follow a lot easier. It'll give you resilience. It'll give you direction and focus and that connection, right? That's how we put a man on the moon. We had a strong enough why. Whether it's logical or not, it was a strong enough why. And so, really understand the purpose and how it fits into everything, even if it's a minor task, how it fits into the big picture. And then we talked about language. Look at your language. Be aware of what your language patterns are, because that'll help you see whether you're having productive or unproductive language patterns. The third item is focus. Are you focused on what you want or what you don't want? So just sort of that directional energy of focus, where is that? And lastly, is physiology. Is how well are you taking care of yourself, taking breaks, and, recharging your mind and body.
Some of the biggest things that people talk about as far as mindset and things like that, because they've got subconscious tapes running in the background and programmed since they were kids. So do you address that? And do you help them stop those tapes running in their head, so to speak?
Yes, absolutely. That's just part of the process of getting out of their own way. And one of the things that I talk about in my book, The Productivity Zone, is that one of the principles of what I call championship psychology, which is this energy management, is that whatever is learned can be unlearned. So a lot of people be like, that's just the way I am. Well, that's fine if you want to stay that way, but, there's another way. And it's kind of like, we weren't born afraid of spiders or snakes, and we probably never had, for those people who have like that fear, you probably never had a run-in with a giant spider. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's an irrational fear, and we can also unlearn that. And so the same with any of the thought patterns that we have. we can unlearn them. And it's, again, it's being open. If you can appreciate that principle, then you're halfway there.
I remember growing up and at a very young age, and in fact, I remember it to this day, looking out the window in second grade and thinking, wow, there's got to be something better than this. Something different. And I just, I was reading a book by Dr. Robert Anthony, Beyond Positive Thinking. And, I'm sitting there in the waiting room with my wife was at the doctor, and I'm just weeping. And just crying because I'm thinking about my parents who struggled their entire life. They worked hard. They died young. And the information was in front of them the whole time, and nobody was there to guide them or to say, hey, you need to look over here. You need to think a different way. And it's in front of all of us. And the people that are seeking and get nudged somehow, and that comes from mentors, and that comes from being around other people that influence you, they'll never find it. They say the kings and the gods put the information where people would never find it, and that was inside you. Because you never look inside you because you're always looking outside of you. Right. So how could somebody benefit from working with you?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for saying that and bringing that story, because I got the chills, and it I talked earlier about purpose. It got me that much more connected about how important, what I'm doing is for young people, as well as we had spoken earlier about me being involved in a veterans organization called Heart of a Fighter. So it gives me more drive going after those projects as well. So I have lots of different ways that people can get involved. I have a book in case they want to get started. That's available on Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. It's called The Productivity Zone, Stop the Tug of War with Time. I do group coaching sessions, so they get an online type of program where they can go through some modules and do some workshops, and then twice a month they come into the group program and they can ask their specific questions, and we can help them where they're stuck. And so that's a really great basis to create some accountability. Of the do-it-yourself, you got a book and you can do it. Let's face it, it doesn't really get the results that we want. It's because we don't hold ourselves accountable to making those changes. We need to have some partners to really help us to push that forward. And of course, I also do one-on-one coaching, and I have a team of coaches who work with people. So, depending on what someone's needs are, I'd be happy to talk to somebody who's interested in this type of coaching.
How can they, if somebody's ready to get started, how can they immediately contact you?
They can email me at Penny. It's Penny at P as in productivity, 10 as in the number, app.com. And I'd be happy to get back to them. Great.
You provided a lot of great nuggets today for the audience, and I appreciate you again for spending the time with us. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It was great being here.
There you have it for this edition. We'll see you the next time.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.